Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Howdy y'all, Brittle Laughlin here. I'm an author. We're here on the corner bookstore. I got to know a little bit about the subject of writing and publishing and everything. I've done about 8 books, I believe. I'm working on a couple right now. My primary focus is on health and wellness. I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships, treat a cause, fix a problem, treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. But today, the whole purpose of today's show is to highlight another author, not me, but someone else. And today, my author is Bill Mcscifi McCormick. Bill is an amazing character in so many different ways. Bill, can you join us up here on stage?
Hi, here I am, everybody. How's you doing?
You have probably one of the widest areas of interest that I've seen on almost anybody I've had a chance to chat with on this show. Because I start going through your website, and I go through some of your blogs, I go through some of this and that and everything else. It's pretty interesting, the extensiveness of your background. So why don't we start with the Mcscifi first, because I think that's kind of your trademark.
Yeah, I started getting published in 2016. Azoth Chem picked up my book, Brittle Riders. And Bill McCormick is a really common name. And Amazon couldn't understand that I was not the only Bill McCormick in the world. So I was getting credited with writing golf magazines and religious treatises and playing country music with Dolly Parton, which I met her once, but I never played in her band. And so on and so forth. And these other people who did do those things were getting credited for writing the Brittle Riders and some of my short stories, and it was a mess. So I called Amazon. I tried doing their help thing online, and finally, like after months, I got frustrated. I called, got this guy in India, and he was a lovely gentleman, and he said, I see the problem. This guy goes to Bill McCountry, this guy goes to Bill McSports, and you go to Bill McSci-Fi. And I went, I'm taking that name. Within 5 days, I had a website, BillMcSci-Fi.com, and we were off to the races.
Something as easy as that, but so complicated to get there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was one of those day drinking moments in my life, because it was just everything was 3 a.m. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm drinking and make this go away.
Was that the silver tequila or something else?
Oh no, I'm pretty much. Well, back then I was still drinking vodka, but yeah, I've been drinking clear liquors for a long time now. Better for me.
Speaking of clear, I have to ask you. You mentioned this purple-haired goddess.
Yep, that's my wife.
Yeah.
I met her on Facebook, of all things, and she came out to a bar where I was sitting, and we got to talking, and we kept talking, and we decided we'd take a little bit of time away from each other because things were kind of getting a little hot, and that lasted 2 days. She was back in my arms in 2 days, and we haven't been together. We haven't been separated really ever since.
Oh wow! And
she had purple hair. She's had purple hair. She's had rainbow hair. She's very colorful. When we did more work at the Pride Parade, she'd always do rainbow hair for the Pride Parades.
Okay, so you started writing when?
Writing in the 80s. I wrote for music magazines. I wrote for nonfiction things. I wrote some sports. I had a website in the early 2000s called jthejoke.com, which made fun of Jay Mariotti, which everyone should do. If you're in America, do that. And but it also highlighted a lot of sports, and I ended up contracting with Major League Baseball to get information before anyone else got it. Even before they put it on MLB.com, I would have it, because I had a lot of sports writers reading my site. So they would get a heads up of what stories were coming down the pike by reading my site. And it was a site, 100,000, 200,000 people a day would come by and take a look at it and speak. But I was the only one running it, and it just became too much. And it's like, finally I met, the woman who I was going to marry, and I was writing, and I had books out, and I had to go do interviews like this. And I couldn't keep the website up anymore. So I finally killed it in 2017, which was a shame. I mean, I love the site, but it's just, there's only so many hours in a day, and I'm not getting up at 2 a.m. to do a sports blog, So.
Okay, so you decided you've been writing for a while. You wanted to write a book, be an author. Tell us about that journey.
Well, in 2010, my ex-wife left me. I just lost my job. I had a lot of things crawling around in my head, and I had these stories that I'd kind of played with. I'd never really written fiction other than to play with it as a personal hobby. But so I started writing some of the stuff, and a friend of mine, she's an editor. She helped me tear it apart, get rid of all the superfluous that's, and try and make something coherent out of it. And in 2011, a company called Whistling Stories rejected me with a 2-page rejection letter written by a guy named Don Webb. He's the editor of the magazine. And basically, it's a long story. I've actually, in my book, Stuff About Things, I've included the rejection letter with his permission, because it was the rejection letter at the start of my career. Because at the bottom of it, it said, look, my boss, who is a born-again Christian, I found out later, he goes, my boss would fire me, tar and feather me, and then ride me out of town on a rail if I printed this story. But it's also the funniest thing I've ever read in my life. Do you have anything else? And I did. And so the story Vorbless did not get printed, not until much later in a different magazine. And but the beat goes Phut, spelled P-H-U-T, did get printed, and people loved it. And I've been writing fiction ever since.
Has it always been sci-fi, or do you have another genre that you write in?
I dabble in horror. Horror is kind of where I go to if I'm not writing sci-fi. I've tried fantasy, and my one experiment with fantasy led to a book, a story called The Writer's Stuff, which got published in Sci-Fi magazine, Sci-Fi Lampoon magazine. But it was a satire on young adult fantasy. It starts off with the lady of the hero lady protagonist comes into a bar, and I literally wrote Lila the Lips bounced woobily into the bar. Thank God everyone realized it was satire. But I don't write fantasy well, and I love fantasy. I mean, I've read quite a bit of it in my life, but when I start to write it, I go off the rails, because I think I like when I'm writing like the chosen one trope. I hate that with a flaming passion. If everybody knows what's going to happen, why are you writing a book about it? It happened. Just move on. I don't need to know how you got there. It's going to happen. Just go there. So that I don't like. And some of the fantasy stuff, they take elements of reality, but they bend it too much, and I can start getting frustrated, because I'm pretty grounded when I write. In my book, The Brittle Writers, I actually interviewed theoretical geneticists, so I could figure out how many chromosomes to use to create the chimeras that I wanted in my book. And I interviewed, thank God, the Department of Defense in America, for all their flaws. If you call them up and say, I am writing a book and need to interview people, they will set you up with people who in their free time, yes, you're going to have to buy them a drink or a dinner or a $150 bottle of scotch, but you will get your answer. Yes, and I did that. And it was worth every penny, because that particular person showed me how to do layered battle plans. So it's not everybody runs up front with their knives burned and these guys run up front. No, he showed me how to break it up into little pieces, and how each combat unit could assess the other combat units and assist the other combat units, and make it less of all the flags come waving at each other on the battlefield, which looks stupid, and make it a real war, make it a real battle. And so I learned a lot. And if it cost me $150 worth of scotch to learn all that, it was worth every freaking penny, because it elevated my writing to a whole new level. And people in the military who read that, it's one of the first things they comment on is, oh yeah, you can smell the gunpowder. You can feel the battle. And that's what I want. I want people to be in it.
You hit a very good point there, and it's something that nobody else has ever talked about on my shows, and that is going to an expert to learn the details that are needed. So you had something that you wanted to do, and the military had the answer. So you just don't dial up, 1-900 military. How do you go about actually getting somebody to help you there?
They have these amazing things called phone books. Now you can get them online, and the Department of Defense has local numbers. And I called a local number. I spoke to a lovely sergeant. She had a pretty good sense of humor. I explained what I was doing. I explained what I had. Showed her what at that time I only had out were short stories, but I'd actually won a couple of awards for my short stories. So I wasn't like just some idiot sitting on the phone going, one of these days, I was enough of a writer that they took me seriously. And so they sent me up originally with a couple other people in the field. And one guy, a colonel that I was talking to, he recommended that if I wanted the feel of a battle, to talk to some combat nurses. And I happened to be on a base with them. I think it was in Georgia, but they had some combat nurses that just come in the night or two before. So I literally walked down the hall and sat and talked with them for a couple hours. And boy, you learn about what they talk about is the injuries they treated, how they get guys back, guys and girls, men and women, back up and into combat, and how it's kind of this grinding chainsaw to get people in, up, out as much as possible. If they have to send them home, if they have to Purple Heart them, they will, but they really want to get them back in the field and back them into battle. And it was some of the most grueling and disturbing conversations I've ever had in my life, because they're basically talking about sewing people up and sending them out. You know, they don't have any choices. They're on the front lines. It isn't like they have hospitals to work with. It isn't like they have care that they can give. It's like a MASH unit only on steroids. You know, they're just whipping people in and out of there. And they all laughed. They said, if you see the TV show MASH, gosh, we wish we had facilities like that, because they don't. You know, so I learned a lot from those ladies.
Interesting, because, you know, a lot of times you think, I want to kill the enemy. But in reality, wounding the enemy actually takes more people to take care of them. And from the battlefield, it puts a greater strain. People don't think in that regard. It's just that, okay, I'm just going to wipe out this platoon order. But, you know, if you only kill half of them, somebody has to come in there and rescue them and take care of them. And it takes a lot more effort, time, money, and rehabilitation. It's something that we don't think about. Yeah, we rescue them more since Vietnam, and there's more trauma and there's more PTSD and things because people survive. But in the big scheme of things, the manpower required is much, much more than it was, say, during the Civil War or other similar events.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a scene in the Brittle Riders near the very end where they're digging through bodies. This is after the war. This is on the Allied side. They're actually just digging through Allied bodies to sort them out so they can be treated or be given burials properly by whoever their respective groups are. And as they're digging through, one of the bodies starts squealing and crying. And they realize they found a live body under this pile. It's been there for days. And that's something that one of the combat nurses told me, that it actually happened in Afghanistan. And I thought that was such a powerful scene that I rewrote. I didn't use the military people's names because that would be rude. Hey, Bob, you're in a book now. Congratulations. No, but I made it, you know, with characters from the book. And it's a kind of a heart-stopping scene, because you realize this character that you thought dead, they're saying prayers for this one. Hey, goodbye. Sorry, have fun in the afterlife. Also, there she is. She's alive. She's bloody as hell. She's broken, but she's alive. And that kind of stuff happens in combat that people never talk about. They never just it's like you said, they either shoot them and they die, or they just go on to the next thing, you know. And there's that whole middle ground of why they have tents and why they have support staff in the field with all these troops.
I don't know if you are familiar with the name Roy Benavides. He's a Medal of Honor winner from Vietnam.
Actually, yes, I am. My uncle Gary served in Vietnam, and so I was well aware of many of the medal winners and heroes of the day back then.
And when you read his citation, you would say that's not humanly possible. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the rest of the story, you know, the thing that he was awarded for, he was actually in battle before that, went back, endured everything, was actually put in a body bag and taken back to be, you know, delivered back to the, you know, prepped and delivered back. And he is so motionless, he's lost so much blood, that when the final person came by and they unzipped the body bag, the only thing he could do was spit. And that was enough for them to say, hey, we got a live, just like you're saying, we got a live one here. And I was fortunate to be at the same reserve center that he was at for a while, way early in my career. And
the number of stories like that I heard from the combat nurses, because I interviewed them at 4 or 5 different locations, and I happened to be in Europe for a little bit, so I caught some in Frankfurt that were like literally just came off the plane from combat. One of them still had a bloody uniform, and I wasn't planning on talking to them in that exact moment. I was trying to get permission to talk to them, and the one lady's like, "The canteens over there, they have alcohol. If you have money, I'll talk." So I heard I herded 4 nurses into the canteen, handed the guy a 50 and said, "Buy booze." And he said, "Yes, sir."
Okay, so you know the secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me, alcohol and steak dinners have got me more information than I could get ever by torturing people. So this is cool.
Yeah, the culture in the military has changed quite a bit since Vietnam with the everything, but we're not going there right now. But a couple of things that you do, you create universes, and I think one of the comments that was made, you're kind of like the creator of fun apocalypses.
Yeah, I've gotten that a couple of times.
What is a fun apocalypse?
One that leaves the reader with hope. I mean, I write some pretty dystopian stuff. The Brittle writers and Copy of the Mist, writing that now. They both start with the death of every man, woman, and child on the planet. Then they get dark and weird. There's a part of me that just can't leave you hanging, because Brittle writers especially is very dark. And it goes through a couple of war scenes, and you think you kind of got it behind you. You think you're in control of it, but you don't really know. And the best you can do is see that there's some water coming into a lake. So maybe you can fertilize crops for the first time in a century. And that's all I'm leaving you with at the end of book 1. You might be able to grow a tomato. And I needed to leave people with a little bit more than that. And so Brittle Writers, book 1, book 2, book 3 is literally the beginning, the middle, the end. And there's no chapters, because book 1 is chapter 1, book 2 is chapter 2, book 3 is chapter 3. And by the time you get through book 3, I think my favorite review on book 3, guy stopped and he goes, I'll watch my language on this. He stopped, he goes, first time in my life. And he goes, I've been reading books, for like 40, 50 years. He goes, first time in my life, the entire plot of a book, everything that I thought I knew, got thrown out the window because one guy wanted to take a dump. He said, this is the most insane book I've ever read in my life. And he goes, now I have to finish it because I want to know what's going to happen. And so, and then I brought hope to the world after that particular bodily action.
So there's an event that happens that's totally unplanned. Well, not unplanned, unthought of. I mean, I've had 2 books that I've read over a time, and in both cases, the primary character at that time died instantly.
Yeah.
And I had to go back and literally reread. Okay, did that person? What happened? And I'm the third or fourth. Okay, I thought this person was going to be, in the book forever, and then it's not there, and it just that really captured, the vividness of it, and the way it happened. It was, one was a snake bite to the throat. Yeah, okay, those things happen, and
right.
Anyway, it's just one of those things, but. Anyway, just give you a heads up. We got a commercial break coming up here in about 2 minutes.
Buy whatever it is. They need the money. Buy it. I'll tell you this. I've read books like that where they kill what you think is the protagonist or the hero. That's why I didn't do that in the Brittle Writers, because I thought, it's kind of been done. So instead what I did was I had it all set up for the big hero moment. This guy's going to be the hero. And then I took that all away from him and left him there. And people found that even more disturbing than if I just put a bullet through his head. So
it was kind of like he was wounded and taken off the battlefield.
Yeah, like, sorry, you're done now. It was fun.
Now, when you're doing sci-fi and you have, as you mentioned earlier, chimera, you're trying to figure out things. How realistic is that chimera to a human with regard to the ability to, do whatever we do? Any magic in there? Any spells, anything else that's going on?
No, you know what? I think we'll wait till after the commercial break, because I have an answer to that involves a 31-page appendix that I wrote so people could follow along when they open the book.
Okay, while we do this, I'll let our production engineer get herself set up, and when everything is ready to roll, just go ahead and just go straight into the commercial, and we'll come right back and talk about your 31-page appendage.
Yep.
In a world craving connection, one platform dared to dream bigger. USA Global TV and Radio, a beacon for global voices, authentic storytelling, and elevated listening. Led by visionary Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the journey from a spark to a global force is now captured in one inspiring book. Honored with YouTube's Silver Creator Award for surpassing 100,000 subscribers. Discover the evolution, the challenges, the triumphs, and the unstoppable spirit that created a global movement. Executive producer Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang. Creative director Paul Garcia. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication, or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Brittle Laughlin here. We're on the Corner Bookstore today on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. My guest today, fellow author, is Bill Mcscifi Mccormick. Bill, please join us up here on stage.
Hi again. Long time no see. Hi, everybody.
We had left just before the commercial break with a 31-page appendage on chimeras and some little nuances about them. We're going to go into that right now. And as you're thinking about the transition, I'd like to go into why writing is better than an antipsychotic that you talked about. So that's kind of the direction I want to go in next.
Well, you'll get there from here. Here we go. What I wanted to do with the chimeras is I wanted to give them obviously some human attributes. So they're created by this guy named Dr. Edwin Q. Rota, and they're designed to be slave labor, sex labor, manual labor, whatever you needed. You go to the store, you buy one, you take it home, do whatever the hell you want with it. And according to the handbook that they give out, these chimeras would die in 10 years, so you just have to replace them, and you get a discount for replacing them because you've already bought one. And so it was all capitalism. But the problem is the chimeras didn't die, because by the time the 10-year time limit came up from when they're supposed to kick the bucket, their immune systems had increased. Everything about them had gotten healthier. They were stronger. They'd been working for 10 years. So they'd get a flu, and then they just skip town, and they'd die. So the people who owned them thought, the bodies must have dissolved because they're designed to die. And Rota just said, the people must have got rid of them themselves, so we don't have to worry about it, just replace them. And nobody paid any attention to the fact that these millions of authentic, or millions of created beings were gathering on underground layers. And of course, eventually they rose up and overthrew everybody who tortured them for all these decades. What I wanted was the chimeras. I'll keep this simple. In the book, there's a creature called the Lamia, which is a combination of a centaur and an armadillo. That's how my brain works. Just go with it. Well, if you put a human torso on top of a horse, one of those things is going to go bad. One of them is going to fall down and just go boom. So to make a chimera work like the centaur llama, we had to take the muscles from the back of the horse and weave them up through the musculature of the human torso so that the torso would be strong enough to be a horse, which is like 15 times stronger than your average human being, 10 times stronger than an average human being. I think Spider-Man strength, okay? So in the book, there's a creature called Brarb. It's like Barbara, but Brarb. And she likes to wield a crossbow that nobody else can even pull the string back on. And she can just yank that thing and she'll put holes in tanks with this thing. She doesn't need a gun. She's got this thing. And each of the characters, we actually went into the genetics of how to make them work. And for you kids who want to build your own chimera at home, you have to start out with 54 chromosomes. And you have to remember that all the reptilian and Herocyte or fur DNA is already in your human body. You just have to manipulate it. But wings and feathers and other things like that, those are nuts. You need chromosomes so you can manipulate them and create them. And then you have to recreate bone structure. And I mean, we put some time into this. I had a dinner with a group of theoretical geneticists. And besides costing me a lot of money, those guys could only drink top shelf, and they only ate ribeyes. And I signed a 9-page non-disclosure agreement, which I realize now is probably to protect them more than me. Because in our conversation, as we were going through how to create, for example, a succubus, a woman with bat wings and talons instead of fingernails, the whole bit, how you do it, how you go from ground zero up to she's flying across the sky, taking new heights. They told me, and this is true, yeah, we've been working on the chimera problem for a little bit. No. You are not trying to build a human minotaur. You are not trying to build a human succubus mix. You're not. No. That's thousands of years in the future. In my book, not next Tuesday, because I mean we don't do well when we meet new people, alien races. My book's just going to come to life a lot sooner than people want. It was the most disturbing conversation I ever had in my life. But I also found out that I needed 54 chromosomes and a few other things I needed, which got incorporated into the book. So all the science in the book, as weird as it is looking at these characters, the science behind the characters is legit. It's 100% bona fide science. Yes, you can. If you had the technology now, you could build a centaur. You could build one of my favorites in the Groping the Mist book, a pangolin, which is a part pangolin, giant anteater, built with a human assassin body so that it can kill. And because pangolins have amazing reflexes, they're just not fast. So make them fast. There, move some genes, make them fast. And so that's what I did, and put a lot of research and work into it.
Sounds super interesting. Antipsychotics and writing.
Yeah, I when everything was going on in my life, when I started writing the novels, when I started writing in the first place in 2010, like I said, I was going through a divorce. I'd lost my job. My bank account had been cleaned out. I had no place to live. I was not in a good spot. I was not in a good place. And yeah, that's my bulging eyeball there. I was not in a good place. And writing these stories, getting these things out of my head, putting my demons on paper showed me that these things had value, that I could do something with them. But also it kept me from going over the edge, kept me from having to go to antipsychotics, kept me from having to go into long-term therapy. Nothing against therapy. I'm in it now, but for a different reason. And, and it helps. Look, if you need to talk to someone, get a therapist. Don't just go to the bartender. Go get a therapist. Most insurance covers it. So do that. But I needed to get I needed to get words, big words thing. I needed to get a grasp on reality. Excuse me. And by writing these stories, it took the surreal parts out of my mind and put them on paper, which actually helped me to focus on the real world that I needed to focus on. And I did a bunch of odd jobs. I ended up as a consultant for Fortune 500 company. I mean, it isn't like I floundered on the streets like a goldfish out of water, but it allowed me to focus my life in different directions because I was getting this other stuff out of my head, getting this other stuff onto paper and away from dealing into my brain. And I met some really wonderful people. I had a really wonderful time, and I learned a lot. And I also learned how to, I learned when you start to draw the line, like, okay, now, no matter what I've done, I really need someone to talk to. And when I got to that line, I went and did that. But until then, I found a kind of a release in getting these things out of my head. And people seem to like them. And like the Brittle Writers, this guy named Garrett Guion, he's an internationally famous film producer. He got hold of the Brittle Writers, did a quick run on it, and he ended up writing a back cover blog so we could use it on all our future books. So I got a guy who's produced millions upon millions of dollars worth of movies saying, this is worth reading. This is worth knowing. And when I first started writing, I was just like kind of hoping that somebody would say, don't get off, you don't have to, wouldn't yell at me and go, get off my lawn, you ignorant writer. So it's been an interesting journey. It's been an interesting journey and been a fruitful one. It's been a lot of fun.
How did you get involved with the video trailers?
Well, I worked in the music industry for years. So making music videos for bands, especially when you work for an indie label, nobody has a budget for anything. So I grabbed some camera people and we go out and we shoot videos. And we ended up with some hit videos, broke stuff on the Billboard record charts. And for an indie label, we accomplished a lot. And I was very proud. It was a company called Ascension. And it kind of went down in flames, but I really don't, it happens, We were small and we just didn't have the money to keep that going. But we produced a bunch of different music videos. Bands, even when the label went under, they still had full promo kits that they could use to get shows and tours and do different things. So we didn't leave anybody hanging, which I felt good about. And many of the people involved in those years are still very good friends of mine. We stay in touch. We talk all the time. And they're out there cheerleading for my writing, and everything else. But I've learned how to do music videos. I learned how to do production kits. I learned how to do promotional materials. I learned what I needed to learn. So when I started writing and they're like, well, you need to have this, you need to have that. All right, go onto YouTube, go wherever the heck I need to go, learn how to do it. And I do. And then with the Brittle Writers, we got to the point where we needed something a little more professional. And so we reached out to this guy named Freddy Noriega from fredheads.net in Mexico City. And great guy, a lot of fun. But he took like 200 different movies and clipped them all together into a 2-minute set to show people what the Brittle Writers would look like. And we have that video on every page that we work with. Obviously, you can't put it on YouTube because it'd be copyright violations all over the place. But we're not using it for commercial purposes. We're just using it to show investors and promoters and what have you this is what the Brittle Writers can look like and sound like and feel like. And my personal favorite is a friend of my therapist watched it and just out of the blue reached out to me and goes, no, never going to look at this. No, no. This is dark. This is weird. No, no dark, no weird. I'm going back to, Peppermint Patty and all that. Bye. I'm going over there now. So it's kind of a helpful, useful tool for us to get money and a helpful, useful tool to weed people out so they don't get startled when they see it in the theater. We'll see what happens.
Do you also do indie publishing?
Yeah, I did for a while. I work with a company called Azoth Chem for my literary works, my novels and stuff like that. And they're kind of a hybrid indie. They developed up since I hooked up with them in 2016. They basically just opened their doors, and they had a catalog of other books, and they wanted some science fiction to bolster it. And I had some science fiction I wanted to go bolster something, so it worked out. We got along, and I knew some of the people involved. So it wasn't like I was getting into a bag with strangers. I felt very comfortable with where I was at. And we've worked together and built together and done a couple of rewrites on the books together. And now you can buy my stuff in England and India. As a matter of fact, next week I'm doing another radio or TV interview in India. I've done like 5 now. And they love this book and they love some of the other stuff I'm doing. And, God bless. I'll sell books anywhere in the country, in the world. I'm banned. I'm banned in Russia and China. If they see my name in Russia or China, I just put a fork in it. But there is a guy in Serbia who has a bootleg channel, and I'm sure he's making some money off my books, and I kind of don't care because he gets them into Russia and he gets them into China through this underground network. And I've gotten fan mail from like Kiev and different places, or in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and people have written me and they're like, "We've read your book, we love this," and it's all digital. They can't get a print book because if you start printing it, there's a printing press somewhere in Russia printing it. They're just going to shut those guys down. I talked to the Russian consulate about it, and they basically told me that if I ever set foot in Russia, I'd be arrested for sedition or treason. So I guess I'm glad I visited Russia in the 80s and early 90s when it was safe for me to do so. China, they don't like the stack. I mean, let's face it, I'm kind of a liberal guy, so my books are pro LGBTQIA, they're pro people of color, they're pro equality. They're pro a lot of stuff. I actually have in the Brittle Writers, Brittle Writers and Go Up to the Miss, I have variations of how to do a polyamorous romance. And I had one lady, she read it and she said, I never forget, she goes, I didn't realize there were several people in the bed together because it just seemed so natural until I went, wait a minute, stop. There's a third there. It's not like a party. They've actually moved in. They're cooking breakfast together. They're a team. And she's like, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know, I was like, yeah. Modern Christianity makes it husband and wife, but through the centuries, marriages have been all over the place, and what they could be whatever they wanted to be. And so I brought back some of the greatest hits of marriage, and had a lot of fun with that. And in Go Up to the Mist, there's a race called the Dragon Lords, and they have between 10 and 15 spouses that live together in the same home. And I did that as a tribute to you're not going to know who this is, but a guy named Jim Marcus. He's an internationally famous industrial musician. He was in Die Warsaw, and he's in a band called Go Fight right now. They do a lot of stuff. But Jim's a polyamorous guy, and he's been my friend for 30, 40 years. And I kind of wanted to honor him without sticking his name in a book, so I did it that way. And he knows about it. He loves it. He's a big cheerleader for it. So, yay me. I got something right.
We're getting toward the end of the show here. I'm going to give you a few minutes in just a moment to tell people how to get in touch with you, who would be a good client, how do people get your books, etc. Anyway. One of the things I noticed that I don't see on very many other websites of authors is you have merchandise. Mm-hmm. How did that develop? How did you end up with the ability to sell gear and merchandise?
It started out, some people wanted a Brittle Writers t-shirt, somebody wanted a Bill Mcscifi t-shirt, and paying for that stuff up front, you end up, I know authors who do it, and they end up with closets full of t-shirts and stuff, and it's expensive. And so I was working with this company. Can I say their name? Yes? No? Red? Hello?
I'm here.
Can I say the company's name?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So I started working with this company called Spreadshirt. And there's a few other companies out there that do this, but this one happened to have everything I wanted. They had the terms that I liked. So, yep, that's my books. Click on gear. And ta-da! There you go. All these designs, you can get them on t-shirts, coffee mugs, coasters, whatever the heck you want. There's like 100 different things you can buy for every single design. And so I've got pictures of people with their babies, and we sell onesies because God knows you want to start them young. Get them to a Bill Mcscifi onesie when they're 1 year old. I've got pictures of, it's like, I'm not just making it up. I've been talking to them online, and people buy this stuff and they like it. And I've been selling them at cons. I point people out to it at cons, and they'll be standing at my table talking to me, and I'll see them online going, no, buy one. And I'll get a little ding on my email saying, you just made $10. You made this. So I get paid for people buying it. And people buy it, and the stuff it's guaranteed, and it shows up in a few days, and everyone's happy with the arrangement. I haven't had a single complaint. I've been doing this since 2017. So in 8 years, I have not had a single complaint with this company, and it's like, I'll just stick there.
Now, you said the name of the company is spreadshirt.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all one word, spreadshirt.com.
Okay. For those people out there interested, spreadshirt.com. So for people interested in getting your books, what's the best way to do that?
The best way to do it is just go to my website, billmcscifi.com. They have links to all of the publishers where my comic books are published, where my short stories are published, where my novels are published. And as you saw on the website, you can go to this page and get novels, this page and get short stories. Because I had to separate them up. There's too much stuff up there. And stuff that's not really available anymore. I finally went in and cleansed it all out just because I have so much new stuff up there. To the nice lady who asked about the film and stuff like that, we're in the Brittle Riders has been optioned by Perspective Films, and we're meeting this fall to begin process of developing into a real movie. And it's pretty exciting because I've had people say, you just can't do this. It's too much work, this, that, and the other thing. These people were like, hey, work is what we do for a living. Let's go do it. And so, yeah, so the Brittle Riders is in stage 1 of becoming a real movie, or maybe even a streaming service. It would make more sense to stream it because there's so much detail in there that you could dive into. But if you made it into a movie, I think it would still be a solid 2 hours of, oh my God, what the hell did I just witness? And we'd start with that.
You've been referred to, my final comment here, you've been referred to as a raconteur. And from our conversation today, I can easily see how that label got put on you. Do you remember who gave you that title?
Yeah, actually, Chat GPT. We were looking something up, and that came up at Bill McCormick Sci-Fi Raconteur, and I went, "Yep, I'm keeping that." And I just moved it over into my bio.
Anyway, as I was doing my research on you, I came across it. I haven't seen that one before. So anyway. Bill, I really appreciate your time today. I look forward. Maybe we'll bump into each other down the road on another broadcast. But thank you so very much for making it today, and I look forward to your future success. So,
thank you very much. It was an absolute pleasure being here. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you, sir. Take care. And the Corner Bookstore. Blank for just a second. The Corner Bookstore today. Bill Mcscifi, McCormick. My brain is going already. Anyway, very shortly here, literally in about 21 minutes, The Wise Ones will be the next show on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And my guest today is Jean Kuhn. She's a business consultant, author, speaker, strategist, so many different things. And I'm looking forward to chatting with her. Following that show, literally in about 20 minutes after that show is over, is my third show today called Talking Heads. And my topic today is Plan B for retirement health. We all have a Plan A, but sometimes Plan A's don't always happen. And sometimes you got to go to Plan B, and it's nice to actually have one. But sometimes you end up at Plan C or Plan D, and you don't even know that you bypassed Plan B because it wasn't even on the planning horizon. So please join me here next on The Wise Ones with Jean Kuhn. Please join me on Talking Heads for Plan B for your retirement health. And if you miss those, we can be found on a couple different channels on YouTube. The USA Global TV on YouTube is where all the playlists, all the archives, all the live shows, everything is there. And so that is where you can find us at. I wish you the best, and I will catch you all next week. Take care now. Bye.
Have you ever felt unheard? Like your words float into a void, leaving you invisible and disconnected? How about feeling judged when assumptions overshadow your truth, leaving you misunderstood and defensive. And then there's that moment when someone offers solutions you never asked for, dismissing your feelings and leaving you more frustrated than before. It doesn't have to be this way. Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the listening mentor, understands. She's here to help you reclaim your voice, build stronger connections, and create meaningful conversations that inspire understanding and mutual respect. Through her groundbreaking books, online and in-person courses, and interactive workshops, you'll learn how to navigate life's most challenging interactions. Discover the power of elevated listening and transform how you communicate. Master setting boundaries and asking permission to protect your peace. Learn to recognize and release judgment, fostering empathy and true connection. Dr. Kerbeck also offers personalized coaching, one-on-one or group sessions designed to fit your unique needs. Whether in person or virtually on StreamYard, her guidance will empower you to thrive. You don't have to struggle alone. The path to deeper connections and better relationships start here. Visit drjacqueline.com or usaglobaltv.com. Join a global community of empowered listeners and transform your life, one meaningful conversation at a time. Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck is the listening mentor. Start your journey today.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Steve Klein Art at steveklein.art.
My name is Steve Klein, born Manchester, England, 1953. My quest in my lifetime is to create artwork from my soul and the deepness within my wildest dreams and fantasies. In 2012, my heart stopped when I was given too much anesthetic for a minor knee operation, and this near-death experience took me to another multidimensional world, an out-of-body experience, and I was given the gift of being blessed by an overwhelming, burning passion to become, for the very first time in my life, an artist with an eternal, passionate desire to bring my art, which I've named multidimensional, subliminal, freeform art, to the world, as only 3% recover from what I experienced, and now in my golden years want to release my cosmic, vital energy through my art to allow people to be a part of my cosmic dance.
To learn more, email roccogoodwine@gmail.com. For VIP pricing, mention USA Global TV and Radio. We face daily cyber risks, spending over 7 hours of screen time, including 4.5 hours on mobile phones. This convenience comes with significant dangers, with cybercrime costs predicted to exceed $10.5 trillion by 2025. In 2023 alone, seniors lost over $3.4 billion to cybercrime. Our goal is to make social engineering concepts of cybersecurity easier to understand. We work with business teams, senior living facilities, investment companies, and educational institutions, both individually and in groups. We offer real-life examples to help you recognize and prevent attacks, with sessions available both in person, in selected regions, and remotely. Schedule your training session, or to learn more, contact us today. Call us at 847-845-9360. Email us at info@cybersecurityeasy.com. Protect your team and family with cybersecurityeasy.com.
Meet Lady Ella, a special ladybug who is trained by Grand Beetle on how to listen at an elevated level. After earning her gold wings, Mother Earth and Father Universe asked her to travel across the solar system, teaching life lessons to creatures to respect one another and to listen. Learn more about her travels in the book series, The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella. The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor. Lady Ella's ABCs of Listening. Lady Ella has afternoon tea in London. The ocean calls and Lady Ella listens. Lady Ella listens in the Baobab National Game Park. Lady Ella's space adventure across the universe. The magical adventures of Lady Ella and her super-powered friends. There are also collections of colouring books for parents and kids. Providing world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Join our team of elevated listeners to teach children elevated listening skills. Lady Ella would like to teach you and your family how to listen at an elevated level. If you're interested in learning life lessons as well as how to communicate more effectively as a family, go to Amazon and order Lady Ella's books. They're all there just waiting for you.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.